And welcome into Buckeye Huddle Prime Time. I am your host, Chuck Milletti from JUCK on Bucks, the newest member over at Buckeye Huddle. Not sure that's going to be too much longer, though. Buckeye Huddle, the most comprehensive Buckeye coverage in the game with a wide variety of personalities and specialties and sensitivities, which I recently found out. We'll get to that in a little bit. But thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be here every Monday, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. for Buckeye Huddle Prime Time throughout the season. And I need your help. Mark Givler, that's the boss man. He's put some pressure on me, squarely on my shoulders. He set a monster goal for subscribers since he brought me on, and he's only given me till the Texas game, which means I really need your help. If you're coming over from JUCK on Bucks to check out the show and you're not subscribed for some reason to Buckeye Huddle, I don't know why that would be. So I don't know how much I can add here, but please do so if you're not already. Obviously, that is the currency we deal with. Those of us behind this microphone, we need that subscription. That's how we get paid the ad dollars. So now that I'm at an outfit like this, man, I got to push for that stuff, guys. I need your help here. So we got a big show tonight. Obviously, camp starts tomorrow. We got some Buckeyes on some award watch lists, which one of them is really interesting. Will the Buckeyes pivot their recruiting strategy in 2026? I did that show last week. I've got an update on that show. And if don't know what I'm talking about, I'll get you caught up in the most simplest way I can explain it. I got my projected depth chart to go over, along with position battles I'm most looking forward to as we start tomorrow, the biggest month of the year for those guys in those battles. And something a little different about the offensive line now as we head into 2025. Hasn't felt like this for a little while. So please like the show. Let's get it on and popping. I'll come and check out the comment section at the end and wrap with you guys. Wait till the end of my segments if you got something that you really want to ask, or you can always get a super chat in. We will get to all of those. But as camp starts tomorrow, huge for a lot of guys, obviously. We think we know how a lot of these battles are going to shake up, but this is showtime. This is the most highly contested month. This is when all those battles come to a conclusion. And why don't we pull up my depth charts that I made, and we will start on, let's start on defense. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. So starting on the defensive side of the ball, we'll start at edge. I think Kenyatta Jackson, pretty much the clear number one here. You can count me in as one of the believers that he is the real deal, going to totally pop off this season. I think what we saw at the end of the season last year into the playoffs was a guy who has found his game. Just the amount of playing time that he got when Jack and JT were playing so good, I think tells us a lot. He was getting roughly 25 snaps a game towards the end of the year, making plays, getting pressures. Caden Curry, for comparison, was getting closer to 12-ish. But who's lining up across from Kenyatta? Is it going to be North Carolina transfer Bo Atkinson, or is it going to be Caden Curry? Caden Curry, a fan favorite. Obviously, we've never seen him play a lot of snaps. So we've seen him make plenty of plays, but we assumed it was going to be him and Kenyatta before Bo Atkinson came aboard. And I think most people felt pretty good about that. Curry, a little bit undersized compared to those two. He's not a huge run-stuffing defensive end, but he can definitely get after it. We've seen that before. Then we got the transfer from North Carolina, who had been pretty inconsistent throughout his career until the last 6 games of last year at North Carolina. The second half of the season is where he did all his damage, and he was really good, but 3 games against 3 not-so-good opponents is where all his numbers came from. Was it a mirage, or is he really turning the corner? He's a guy with pedigree. He wasn't some bum coming out of high school. He was this county's player of the year. I think he was a very low-end 4-star. He was a 4-star. He's a blue-chip recruit. So it's not like it's just some guy that came on out of nowhere. He's clearly put the work in. Matter of fact, I got a picture of him in his Buckeye uniform. Let me pull that up here. Going to be wearing number 14, which is a pretty interesting number for an edge. So I like him. But ultimately, I think across from Kenyatta Jackson, we're going to see a lot of Bo and a lot of Caden Curry, and probably going to end up like that. After that, you got transfer Logan George. That's the FCS transfer, who in the spring game looked a lot bigger than I thought he originally was. I was pretty pleased to see that, and he definitely played with some fire. He wasn't playing against great competition when he was in, but he looked really good, and Larry Johnson certainly seems sold. When Larry Johnson was asked about him in the spring, basically, this guy's coming from the FCS. How do you know if he's ready? Larry said, oh, he's ready, with kind of a chuckle as if to say, look, he's really ready. No need to worry about that. So that made me feel pretty confident about him. Then, of course, you got CJ Hicks dropping down from linebacker. A lot of people really excited about this. A lot of people think he should have been there all along. I'm not one of the people that are really excited about this. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be super impactful on the defense. I hope I'm wrong. He's a great dude. I really like him. I just feel like I've got my feelings hurt too many times, hoping that this is the year CJ is going to pop. So he's just going to have to show me at this point. He's going to have to show me. I'm going to keep my expectations low so I can be pleasantly surprised if that's what happened. Now, moving to defensive tackle, have you seen Caden McDonald? If you haven't, allow me to show you K-Mac. My goodness, that is a different looking body composition. We have got bigger, leaner arms. We got a smaller gut. This is a dude who is ready to roll, looking tremendous. And him and Edric Houston, the clear starters, there's a definitive gap after the two of them. We're just hoping that that gap isn't too big. So behind K-Mac, the man everybody's been talking about without having really seen anything, is Will Smith Jr. Every year we see somebody get this kind of buzz, and it usually comes off a couple of quotes a coach or some other players say, and then the media rolls with it. It makes sense. It's a player we like, and you see this buzz. This year, that's Will Smith Jr. And I love his dad, and I love Will Smith Jr., a legacy, an Ohio boy. I'm hesitant to jump on board with this with the confidence everybody else seems to have until we see something. Again, this is a guy we've not seen play hardly any football. We didn't even get to see him in the spring game. But we did hear his name at Big Ten Media Days, and I don't want to discount that. However, sometimes that can be just as much of a kind of a public way to talk to a player. We need you, buddy. We need you. And we do need him, because after him, you got sophomore Eric Mensah, the flip from Virginia Tech, who was maybe top 700-ish player in the country. A developmental guy you certainly weren't expecting to play in year two. I'll put it like that. And then freshman Max Roy, who's coming off an injury. I believe it was an Achilles. So a bigger injury. It's Will or it's nobody. So it's really got to be Will. We need him, and they do need him. So hoping that Will can really play excellent. Now, behind Edric Houston, who, by the way, Edric Houston on the Outland Award watch list for the best interior lineman in the country, which is excellent. I'm a big Edric guy. I think this dude's going to be a total star as he enters year two. His body composition, I wish I had a picture of him. He looks fantastic, just big, girthy, always that huge smile. Everybody loves him, but an easy guy to cheer for. But behind Edric, you've got fourth year Tywone Malone, who I believe is the next man up. We have seen this guy make plays in games last year against Marshall, I believe it was. He had a pretty impressive game. Just a big monster looking man. And he certainly played with some energy and some fire in that game. Looked pretty good in the spring game. Jason Moore did not. Jason Moore fighting for that spot as well at 6'6", 307. Certainly has the frame to do it, but we haven't seen much that inspires much confidence as to what we're going to see out of Jason Moore. And then we got freshman Jarquez Carter, who I'm really a huge fan of Jarquez. Jarquez, confident in himself as well. Jarquez bench pressed 225 pounds, 32 reps just about a month ago. That's a freshman walking in the door. Last year, the leader on this entire team, on the national championship team in that same category, was Donovan Jackson with 32 reps. Donovan Jackson, a grown man, strong as an ox, and Jarquez Carter as a freshman just came in and did what he did. So incredibly strong, nasty, quick, got his weight up to about 290. And outside of these starters, he's my next favorite tackle on this roster. I wouldn't be surprised at all if towards the second half of the year, we're seeing Tywone Malone and Jarquez Carter kind of splitting snaps behind Edric. And that would be pretty fantastic for a freshman defensive lineman to be getting that kind of run. Now, at linebacker, did I just knock my contact out, guys? I think I did. Unbelievable. At linebacker, Sonny and Arvell. Both Sonny and Arvell have just been named to the Butkus Award watch list, which is fantastic. People are taking notice. People are taking notice of this ridiculous duo, and it is going to be so intimidating watching those two. Can you imagine when Grambling in Ohio take the field and that offense walks up to the line and they look and see two dudes at linebacker that are as big as their defensive linemen, just lean and as fast as their wide receivers? It's just amazing. Then you got Peyton Pierce, who is the clear number 3 here. Nothing but rave reviews from James Laurinaitis and really everybody else, Ryan Day as well. But the way James talks about him is like with a twinkle in his eye. Then freshman phenom Riley Pettijohn, who, I got another picture here of Riley. Riley's neck. Here's Riley. Look at the neck on Riley. My gosh, he's putting on a lot of weight since he's been there. Him and TJ Alford. We were told by Sonny Styles at Big Ten Media Days that freshman linebackers Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford, both between 230 and 235 now. Neither of them are over 6'2". And I confirmed that with TJ Alford. He's 230, hasn't lost a step. Those two are excellent. Can't wait to see them out on the field getting some run. But we can't discount Garrett Stover as well. Garrett Stover also put on a bunch of weight. This is a guy who was a top 150 player in the country. I think a lot of people overlooking him because he's not, the phenom, but that's a really solid guy with a lot of pedigree coming in, and he is fast. So Garrett Stover, is he going to maybe get into that mix for that 4th spot behind Peyton? We'll see. So the linebacker room just looking absolutely ridiculous with James Laurinaitis. Now at safety, Caleb Downs, and what needs to be said for Caleb Downs, who is just the best defensive player in the country. Next to him, you got the big battle between Malik Hartford and Jalen McClain. This is one of the bigger battles of the year of this offseason here. And Jalen McClain, I think there's just a little something special about him. This guy comes in as a true freshman, an undersized 3-star, and he's making plays everywhere. And he just looks like a natural. And then we hear Matt Guerrieri talk about him, about the dedication, how much time he spends at the Woody, how much time he spends working on his diet, just cramming food down his throat. Like whatever he needs to do, this guy's doing it. I think there's just a little something different about him. Of course, I love Ohio's own Malik Hartford, who was a big-time recruit, who put on a ton of weight from 24 to 25, looked like a hammer in the spring game. He's way bigger and he's long and he's fast. Two guys that bring a little different flavor. And I think we're going to get to see a lot of both of them, which is great. Then we also got Leroy Roker, freshman Fahim Delane, who I'm really excited about. Not sure how much we'll see of him this year. Also freshman Deshaun Stewart, Cody Haddad. Also in the room last year, transfer from South Carolina, Keenan Nelson, who we didn't see any of last year. Wonder if we'll see any of him. He's a 3rd-year guy, I believe. At corner, Davison Igbinosun, who also is looking tremendous, putting on some size. He is so long, so rangy, so annoying. Him and Jermaine Matthews, the two biggest mouths on the team when it comes to the crap talk. It gets themselves pumped up. I think IGB is underrated by most Buckeye fans because of the penalties. I think the penalties make people so angry that they just kind of underrate him naturally. He is a really good player who's made a lot of big-time plays. Jermaine Matthews, the best cover guy last year on the entire team, in my opinion. And I love these two. And how could you not love Devin Sanchez right behind them? The absolute prototype in every single way, all the way down to the mentality. We know he's going to play a ton. What about Aaron Scott? Aaron Scott, a 5-star in his own right 2 years ago out of Springfield, Ohio. Not quite as naturally gifted as Devin, not quite the physical phenom as Devin. But, I mean, we're talking about a big-time player here. So what kind of rotation might we see at corner? At nickel, how serious is the battle between Lorenzo Styles Jr.? Does he have that locked up? And Bryce West. Bryce West, one of the fastest guys on the team, just learning the position. But Lorenzo hasn't been at it too long either. Can Lorenzo lock it down? I think he will. And I think we're going to see a very much improved Lorenzo Styles, who's going to surprise a lot of people. A lot of people think he's kind of the weak link here on the defense. And I'm hoping that he surprises everybody because he's a great kid and a great athlete. But my goodness, when we look at this bunch, just looking at these names, that is one incredibly talented bunch there, man. Considering how much the Buckeyes lost, to just take stock of those names right there, it really is something. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. And we start at quarterback. Right now is about the time of the year where we start to hear everybody talk about what a real quarterback battle it is. And it's what we hear every year. And every year it kind of follows the same script, whether it's a real quarterback battle or not. This is a real quarterback battle, in my opinion. And I mean, it's real in that absolutely Lincoln Kienholz, if he beats out Julian Sayin, If he can make the routine plays routinely, if he can put the ball on the money more, if he's making the smarter throws, if he's not being careless with the football, he can win. There are some offenses where I think Lincoln Kienholz would be the preferred quarterback. But in Ryan Day's offense, we know what Ryan Day values. He values making the throws, making the smart throws over athletic ability. And Lincoln is a dog, and I really like him. And I hope the competition pushes them both to get better. I've just got a ton of belief in Julian Sand, and I have since high school. I could not be more thrilled that we lucked out and got him. So if he loses to Lincoln Kienholz, quite honestly, it would feel to me like something went wrong. And that's not a great feeling. But Jeremiah Smith did come out and say to a reporter the other day, Stephanie Ote, that he thought it would probably be Julian. And then she asked Coach Day about that. And Jeremiah said, or Coach Day said, I listened to Jeremiah's feedback, but Jeremiah doesn't make the decision. These guys are going to compete. And they are going to compete, and that's great. At running back, you got James Peoples, who plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he uses that to drive him. Anything negative, I think he even fabricates negative stuff to drive him, which I love. I think that he's going to be a stud this year. CJ Donaldson. CJ came over from West Virginia, and I'd be lying if I said I watched a ton of this guy at West Virginia. I didn't, but I sure watched a lot of his film. And when he came over, my impression of him was he's a guy that can be used in goal line situations. He can catch some passes. Not a guy I want to see in a 1-2 combination. A bit of a jag. What's a jag? A jag is just a guy. And we don't want just a guy at Ohio State. Now he looks tremendous. Comes over, loses weight, goes from 243 to 225, and just watching him and his running style looked considerably different. I mean, considerably different. And now I'm excited for this guy. Also listening to him talk, they just seem to find the right guys in the portal, and you got to commend him for it because you've only got this much time to get to know the guys in the portal. But I'm really happy about that pickup. So James Peoples, CJ Donaldson. Then we got Bo Jackson, the freshman, who is as ready to roll as any freshman on this team, if not more. Got it all. And I actually think that there are a couple of games this year we're going to see Bo Jackson get close to the 100-yard mark or close to leading the team in rushing yards for that particular game. Then I've got Isaiah West after him, who's also ready to go as a freshman out of Philadelphia St. Joe's, was injured in the spring, but he's smart. He's a ridiculously good running back, all around, 3-down back. And then Turbo Rogers, who I can't wait to see as well. Just a plethora of great options here. And then you move to the wide receiver room with your top three of JJ, Carnell, and Brandon Innes. And I think those three are very secure in those roles. Some people would like to see Mylan Graham contest Innes for that role. Mylan, clearly an electric first-round type of talent. And this wide receiver room can be kind of frustrating. It's frustrating for me at times because you see these guys come up and come into the program and you just want to see them play, and they got to wait. And I'm even someone who's very high, I think more than most, on Bryson Rogers. I'm really excited for him. I readily admit Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter are clear first-round talents. Bryson Rogers, not that. But I think he's really good. I do think he's an NFL dude. He's runs routes great. He's fast. He's got excellent hands. I just like the way he moves, and I like his attitude. So what you've got are 6 guys ready to play football. 6 guys good enough to play at Ohio State right now. Going to be really interesting if we see maybe a different rotation. We don't usually see much of a rotation from Brian Hartline, but this is his deepest room ever, and he's going to want to keep these guys happy. At tight end, we got Max Clare, Will Kazmarek, Jelani Thurman leading the way. Then Bennett Christian, freshman Nate Roberts. After him, sophomore Max LeBlanc, and freshman Brody Lennon. Just a loaded room, an absolutely loaded room that Keenan Bailey has assembled. And I think that Max is going to be on the field a ton. Keenan seems to love Will Kaz. I suspect we'll see the two of them together the most, but very excited for that. And that brings us to the offensive line. I've got Ethan Anyanwa at left tackle, Luke Montgomery at left guard, Carson Hinsman at center, Tegra Shabola at right guard, Austin Searveld at right tackle. Then I've got Ian Moore and Phil Daniels as your number 6 and number 7. Now, the offensive line battles are going to be a little different. So if someone's injured, last year, let's say you had an injured tackle, what they were going to do is bring in their next best tackle. Well, this year it's going to be, if one of our 5 is injured, we're going to bring in our 6th best guy. And whatever needs to happen to make that happen, you're going to take one of your swing men, like, for instance, Austin Sareveld. Let's say Ian Moore is your number 6 guy. Ian Moore is your number 6 guy, and he beats out Tegra Shabola, and Tegra's now the number 6 guy, and Ian's the 5th best guy. Well, Ian can only play tackle. In that scenario, Tegra would come off the field, Austin Sareveld would slide down to guard, and Ian would come in at tackle. So it's best 5, best 6, best 7. That's how they're going to do it. Now, Tegra, interestingly enough, also with Edric Houston on that watch list for the Outland Trophy, the best interior lineman in the country. Tegra, of these 5 linemen, well, we don't know what Ethan Anyamwa did. We can see what his film on at Rice, but of these guys, like last year, there was a lot of parts of Tegra's games and several games that it was a little frustrating. And coming into this year, you would say he's probably running in 5th right now. But then again, we have no idea how much he's improved from then to now. Could be a ton. We certainly know he has the physical tools to do it. Will we see it? But I do want to talk a little further about this offensive line, because I just was thinking the other day, looking back to 2023 in the spring, and then maybe the spring of 24 as well, just having a real insecure feeling about the offensive line moving forward. Even as 24 began, like, I thought the 24 offensive line was going to be a top 5 unit, and that was probably a little wishful thinking. I turned out to be right, probably just a good guess. But even though I thought 24 was going to be an excellent unit, looking forward to 2025, we knew at the end of the season, Ohio State was going to need to go and bring in 2 tackles out of the transfer portal. 2 tackles. Now, they've done a good job with their transfer portal strategy over the last 3-4 years, but that isn't part of their transfer portal strategy. Their transfer portal strategy is to patch holes, upgrade talent where possible, where it makes sense, not to go out and get 2 starting offensive linemen, tackles, premium positions, 2 of them. That's a lot of money. That means something has gone wrong. That means you've failed somewhere in your roster construction. You never want to be in the position where you have to do that. So you had reserve tackles who were not really Ohio State quality, and we kind of knew that going into the 24 season. And even though the 24 line looked pretty good, it just felt, again, like it did in 23, that you had this instability coming up. You couldn't just look at the room and say, this is complete. We got everybody in the pipeline we need, and we can now add in the portal like we do at other positions that are stocked full. But if you find a talent upgrade, you can go get them. So that's the way I felt about the offensive line. And now, as we're rolling into 2025, I feel a lot different. How could it be so different? Well, for one, I got to give Justin Fry credit for a couple of things. Number one, we go into this season knowing what we didn't know going into 2024, and that is Carson Hinsman, Luke Montgomery. These are total dudes. Austin Sareveld, total dude. And we got to see this because of some injuries and because Fry had them ready to go. Now they're experienced against primetime competition in the biggest of big games. Austin Sareveld and all 3 of those guys, including Tegra, those guys can all come back. They can all come back next year. And we talk about spending on freshmen, making sure that that crew, that 4-pack of guys who won a national championship together, can come back as seniors in a year in 2026 where the Buckeyes will be pushing all their chips in for a national championship run, a year that looks like it sets up a little better than 2025 for that kind of run. Having that money when you got this $20.5 million budget now to make that happen, that's a big time priority. Now, the Buckeyes did end up locking in those 2 transfer tackles, and we strongly suspect Ethan Anyamwa is a dude. We weren't familiar with him, at the beginning of last year. Obviously, Phillip Daniels, I don't think we know enough about him to say he's a dude. He wasn't moving quite as well as Ethan in the spring game. He's got a little ways to go yet. Ian Moore, I don't know if we could say he's a bona fide dude, but I strongly suspect he is. That's a big hit for Justin Fry. Josh Padilla, I think he's got a little something to him. That's another hit for Fry. Looking down the line to the class of 2025, Jake Cook of Westerville, the best story of the class last year, a guy who came and camped and finally got his offer. This dude's running with the 2s already as a true freshman. So that's a big hit for Fry. Gabe Van Sickle, flipped him from Northwestern. The kid wanted to go to Michigan State all his life. Michigan State wouldn't even offer him. And then Ohio State comes in what looks like a desperation move just for a number, flips him out of Northwestern. At the time, everybody roasted it, yours truly included. This dude's looking like a player. So right now it's looking like Fry, some excellent evaluations. I'm also a big believer myself in Javon McFadden, who we've not seen anything out of, but a guy from Maryland who Ohio State beats Colorado and Maryland for, not teams you usually see Ohio State go up against. This kid's a dog. He is a total dog. Obviously, Carter Lowe was blatantly obvious. He's going to be a total dude. And then you enter Tyler Bowen, and Ryan Day restructures the entire room. Marcus Johnson and Charlie Dickey, who were coaching their own offensive line rooms last year. You bring in Austin Fields out of Virginia Tech, who was Tyler Bowen's assistant. And when we look at this class of 2026, what Bowen and that crew were able to do, I call it a B+ for me. You got Sam Greer, who will eventually get his 5th star. That is a primo deal. Top 100 Max Riley. Aaron Thomas, a much bigger commitment than they're getting credit for, in my opinion. And Tucker Smith reminds me of an Ohio kid who just wants to be a dog. He wants to be a dog. He's just a nasty dirt dog. So a B+ class in an abbreviated timeline. And when you look at the guys panning out, guys like Luke and Ian and Cook and Van Sickle, Padilla, Seerveld, like, we didn't give Fry enough credit. He was short on numbers. He was short on true tackle bodies, but these are some really good evaluations and development of these guys, as it turns out. But only the recruits that, the only ones that we haven't really heard super positive things about, other than their physical development. We have heard that they are, and they are. I saw some good pictures of the Armstrong twins where they do look quite a bit better, but we haven't heard of them popping or pushing. And the guard got passed up by Jake Cook, which isn't a great sign, get passed up by a true freshman. But other than that, all of his guys seem really, really good. And now moving forward, the fact that you got all these guys that can come back in 2025, giving the guys behind them another year to get older and to get better and more physically bigger and stronger. I just can't tell you how excited I am now as a guy who just loves offensive line play. Looking back to how I felt in 23 and 24 about the future of the offensive line room. And as we look now, and again, I don't want to give all the credit to Bowen because I think Fry did a really good job with some of these evals, but this room looks loaded. It doesn't look like there's any need to panic about anything. You've got a ton of really quality, high-level guys and the opportunity to bring back some veterans in the 2026 season, which to me is earmarked for an all-in season like 24 was. So in addition to that, you got all these offensive line coaches that everybody seems to really love because they can find the guy that speaks their language, and they're all on the same page in their teaching every single thing the same way. And it's just a great setup. It's a great setup that I think other people are going to copy, that Ryan Day was ahead of the curve on. So really good stuff. Got me feeling good. I'd like to remind you guys that the show you're watching now is Buckeye Huddle Primetime. It's on every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Let's all please subscribe to Buckeye Huddle. That would be fantastic. I'll get to your super chats if there are any at the end of the show and your comments. I'll also be hosting the Skull Session. That's the recruiting podcast with Mark Givler. Those are bangers. I love those shows. Mark is an incredibly tuned in recruiting guy, not just tuned in, but a guy who does the legwork. Mark is going at the end of the month down to Broward County, Florida to watch schools like Chaminade Madonna, St. Thomas Aquinas. Bunch of different Ohio State prospects will be there playing football. And, you know, he's going down to watch them, to scout them. Like, this is a guy who does the work, and he's really good. So I'm very excited to host those Skull Sessions. I'll tweet out when we're going to be doing those. But let's get to some recruiting while we're talking about recruiting. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be about players. It's going to be more philosophical. Last week I did a show, and the show was, will the Buckeyes pivot their strategy after a new ruling and try to close out the class of 2026 real strong? I wanted to update this tonight. I didn't think many of you would be interested in that particular show, but I felt like I was so irritated about things. I had to get it out. I got so many follow-up questions about that since I've done it. I didn't realize so many of you kept up on the minutia of this, but a lot of you do. So I wanted to go over that. What did I mean by pivot their strategy? Well, there was a new compromise, and that compromise was between the CSC, the House Settlement Enforcement Wing, and the House Plaintiff Attorneys. And it was a hugely consequential compromise as to how we're going to be moving forward with recruiting here. And at the heart of the disagreement was, will collectives be considered businesses or not? Well, yes, they will now be considered businesses. And I'll quickly explain why that's so consequential to those of you who haven't kept up with this idiocy of this entire thing. But the reason for the update and why I'm doing it today as well is Ross Bjork has spoken since then. He spoke the final day of Big Ten Media Days. Ross was being interviewed by none other than my colleague here at Tom Orr. So Tom and Tony are sitting there interviewing. Tom's interviewing Ross Bjork. Tony's on the sidelines. And while Tom is interviewing Ross Bjork about this particular topic, news comes in on Tony's phone about the ruling, which is crazy. Matter of fact, I want to show you a piece from them this morning.
Tony, we have a new member of our team at BuckeyeHuddle.com, JUCK from the Juck on Bucks podcast. He is doing a live show a couple nights a week on the Buckeye Huddle channel at YouTube, and will be on the Buckeye Huddle podcasts as well. So you'll be able to watch that and listen to that to your heart's content. He was on our board, in the sort of like welcome aboard kind of thread. And he said one of the things he was really looking forward to was power pausing me. And it was like, whoa. That not everyone gets to do that. That's just Tony's thing. It's hat science, ketchup, and that. Those are the three things that Tony has in the world. Do not try and steal one of those things from him.
I don't have much, Tom. I do not have much, but those are the three things that I have. And heaven help you if you come after any of those three things, because I will protect them with my life as far as I can. So yes, Monday.
So if you're not familiar with what that means, power pause, that's when Tony says, Tom, how's it going? And it makes him wait like that. Call it a power pause. Now, I was excited to do that. New guy got put in his place. I will not be doing that. Understood, guys. Understood. But literally while Ross was talking to Tom Orr, that news broke, which was crazy. The timing was insane. So Ross was giving his answers, but he didn't have the full news, which kind of made that interview kind of inconsequential. We wanted to hear what he had to say after that broke, and we have since heard what he had to say. Now, what is the news that broke? The CSC, that is the enforcement wing of the House settlement, caved. They caved just a few weeks in. There was a fight between them and the House plaintiff attorneys. The first fight, the first argument. In the clearinghouse, that's the part of the wing that reviews the deals, was turning down all the deals that were submitted by collectives. And the plaintiff attorneys said, hey, what gives? This is in line with the settlement. You need to accept those deals. The CSC said, no, they do not need to accept those deals. Collectives are not businesses, and they will not be accepting those deals at the clearinghouse. The plaintiff attorney said, if you don't accept them, we're going to take it to the judge, which they have the authority to do, apparently. And the CSC said, well, we're going to have to just have a deeper discussion about this, which they did. Now, the CSC was absolutely right. This should not be allowed, not under the goals, right? The goals are to try to knock off pay for play, which this shouldn't be allowed. And you'll hear people like Andy Staples say, if a concert promoter can charge for a meet and greet, it's no different than that. Yes and no. A collective charging for a meet and greet of a player is a legitimate business transaction. They're paying the player to appear. They're charging the customer to come see the player. That's a legitimate business transaction and something a business does. The difference is if I'm a collective, I can say, hey, Luke Montgomery, I'm going to offer you $7,000 and you got to come to this coaching clinic, put out a post, autographs, etc. Well, Luke puts that deal through the clearinghouse and that deal gets accepted. As a collective, now I can give that same deal that I just gave to Luke to 105 players, every single guy on the roster, and they will all go through the clearinghouse because they cannot deny those other players their ability to make that money, even though they know this is now totally fraudulent. And each one of those transactions is a legit business transaction. They are. But are they getting paid from a business? No. They're getting paid by a fund that is designed to funnel money to the players. There is absolutely no chance a business would operate like this, obviously, or they would lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. So while this business no business would make a legit transaction like that with 105 guys, yes, they would make one. So you've got this gray area, and that's what they were fighting over. And the purpose of a collective isn't to turn a profit. It isn't to make money for investors. It's just the opposite. The purpose of a collective, even if they're conducting business transactions, is to lose money to the players. And they can now do that. They can do what no other business can do because the goal is to lose money to the players. And the CSC didn't want it. This is why SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said, if they do this, if they allow this, it'll essentially be a soft cap. And really, it's almost like there's no cap. As far as this goes now, the settlement, this NIL cap is virtually totally inconsequential now. So the CSC caved. They said, forget it. We're not going to fight this anymore. We're going to let you have it. We know it's not right, but we're going to allow it. And now, as many deals as any of these collectives can get through the clearinghouse to funnel money to the players, they're just going to keep throwing them through. In addition to that, the amount of deals that we're now going to see is going to increase a ton now that they're able to do this legally under the rules, which makes it nearly impossible, if it was ever even legal, to check if these players deliver on those things in the deal that they're supposed to deliver on. It's just a total sham now. The NIL restriction part, keep in mind, a lot of different things going on here, but this part is now unfortunately a bit of a sham. And this to me was a very important part here, obviously. But the fact that they crumbled so easy could make someone think that they knew they were going to lose. And now it feels more like they are trying to just kind of hold the line as long as they can until the SCORE Act passes, hopefully, is what they're thinking. Give a little ground, give it a little ground, much better than losing very public battles in court. Because once they start doing that, man, the wolves come out. Make everybody think that it's just a matter of wording, no real big deal. But this one right here was enormous. Now, the SCORE Act, the second part of this thing, introduced as a bipartisan bill, going to pass the House, but they need 60 votes in the Senate, which means they need 7 Democratic votes. In addition to that, you got the executive order, which is basically in support of the SCORE Act, and it had some things that were already in the rules. It was nothing at all. Once Trump gets involved, what does that do? What does that embolden? The Democrats get even nastier in their opposition. So I don't think that helped one bit. But many wanted Ohio State to disregard this from the rip because everyone was so sure it was going to get blown up. And now they're pointing this saying, see? But we knew Ohio State was not going to disregard this. We knew Ohio State was going to follow the rules because our athletic director, chose to be on the board here from the ground floor and assisted with the creation of the CSC. He assisted in the hiring and selection of Brian Seeley to run the CSC. Important to note, Ross Bjork's duties are now done. He's no longer on any board anymore. He was there, created it. Now he's done. So many have taken this attitude that Ohio State should just not pay attention to this settlement. Their argument is any time spent paying attention to this is really just restricting Ohio State when others aren't restricting themselves. And when it all blows up, they'll all be 10 steps ahead of Ohio State. And Ross told us Ohio State was going to be on the right side of this all along. It's what he said. And what he means by that is on the rules side. And because I knew Ohio State was going to be on the rules side of this, I was rooting for it to work. Now, everybody else that we are competing against had a choice too. Were they going to follow the rules or were they not? And the ones that did not, now it's set up that they're, they got an advantage. So that's the setup. How does it affect Ohio State specifically? When the news broke that the CSC caved, it was bad news for us because all the other schools, let's say this, Ohio State was paying players and recruits one way. Revenue, a share of the revenue package, right? That's it, rev share. And every other team is not every other team, but several other teams were not just paying them like that. They were paying them a piece of their rev share and a guaranteed NIL deal. Well, Ohio State under these rules was not offering guaranteed NIL deals because you can't guarantee that you're going to come to Columbus and this many businesses are going to give you this much money to do business with them. You can't guarantee that. So Ohio State playing it by the rules, playing it legit. And the ones that weren't, I'm sure there are ones that didn't even care about trying to funnel this through their collective. They were just paying it straight out and totally ignoring it. There are some of those too. But the ones that were using their collective to make these fake deals and that were planning on doing that all along, they're ahead right now. And when the CSC caved, all those schools that were not doing it right are not going to get punished for this. And the ones that were are a step behind. And that's infuriating to the ones who were following the rules. And I've talked to several of you who have turned that anger towards Ohio State for following the rules, and a lot of angst towards Ross Bjork specifically. Initially, some was towards Ryan Day. But as our own Mark Givler here has pointed out many times on Buckeye Huddle, Ohio State's legal team is 100% behind this. Ohio State's legal team is advising what decision they're making here. And by advising, really, I mean orders from headquarters. So it's not like this dude just can do what he wants and go rogue if he wants to. The schools that got away with it, whatever. Where does it leave us now? Where do we stand now that the rules have changed, that you can use the collective and pay as a business through NIL? That's where my pivot conversation came from the other day. Now that Ohio State can, in theory, do the same thing under the rules that those other schools were doing. And an example of this, if we go back to what we previously talked about, like let's say we got a recruit, and a month ago, we were in big on this recruit, but we could only offer him $200,000 of revenue share. Somebody else is offering him quite a bit more. But their deal is revenue share and NIL that we weren't allowed to offer. Well, now we can go back to the table and say, okay, in addition to that $200,000, instead of opportunities to make these deals in Columbus, which Learfield is set up to help you with the Buckeye Sports, and that'll still be there, the Buckeye Sports Group, we will also offer you this much guaranteed NIL. Ohio State now has the ability to do that because the collective, so long as they have the money in the bank, can operate like that now. All they got to do is make sure they're working hard to continue to put these deals through the clearinghouse, and they can make it add up. And a lot of it can be through social media. It's just, there's a lot of different ways around it. Does it feel like a shady gray area? Yeah, it does. Absolutely. But it certainly seems like the way this is going at some point for everybody. And one thing we do know is Ohio State not going to be left in the dust. When NIL first rolled out, they were not going to pay players. We clearly could see some other places were, and that was against the rules. You couldn't pay players, but everybody was doing it. Eventually, the NCAA came out and said, we're not going to enforce it. And Ohio State eventually had to do it. Well, Ross has spoken. The big question, is Ohio State going to pivot? Regarding the ruling, Ross said it's just a matter of wording, nomenclature. If they're not a business, if they're acting like a collective previously was, just giving away money, but if they're conducting business, then they are a business. And this is obviously the only thing he could say. I'm guessing behind closed doors when that ruling came down, he was a little angry, as well as every other athletic director who's been following this to a T. When is Ohio State going to be changing strategy? When are they going to be pivoting? First, he brought up some points, and points that we've talked about plenty of times. So over the weekend, Ohio State missed on offensive lineman Duron Parks. He committed to Florida State. Duron Parks was a borderline commit, borderline take for Ohio State, meaning, just, okay, we'll take him kind of guy, a guy that you're only taking because you missed out on a lot of other guys. He was not that for Florida State. He was, closer to the middle or the top half of their prospects. And what's that mean? If you're both operating on a $20.5 million budget, it means they can afford to give that guy more money than you can. So that's the way it's going to be a lot of times for Ohio State. In addition to always having the best, going after the best of best targets, you've also got usually than your opponent more talent, older talent on your roster. It's more important to retain. Ross continued, he continued to say, we all know what the agreement is, meaning all the ADs and all the schools, and everybody wanted this. Everybody wanted this structure. Everybody wanted these rules. And he seems very bothered that if everybody wanted these rules, why do there seem to be people who want to be outside of these rules? Will there be a point where Ross pivots, where Ohio State pivots? He said it's not going to be a specific thing, but they're ready to if they need to. They're clearly not at that point yet. That seemed pretty clear. There will be no pivoting in this class of 2026, in my opinion. this class that is now ranked 9th, and we'll pull it up here. And again, if you're not familiar with me, I use the Rivals on 3 rankings for team rankings, because unlike 247, if you have a huge class with a lot of players, that will inflate your number. On 3 Rivals uses the average number of players that are in every class, and they make that average and take your ranking off of that. So I think it's more accurate because it doesn't just inflate classes that are huge. Now, when we look at the class here, the Buckeyes class ranks 9th. Obviously, Ohio State, 6 straight years has finished in the top 5. There is no chance of that this year. That's off the table now. The goal is to try to stay in the top 10. And you've got Miami at number 10, Michigan at number 11, and they're creeping up right on the heels. Now, Ohio State, playing on a level playing field as everybody else this cycle, we know would have done much better. And that's infuriating. And I certainly get everybody's angst, man. I got it too. It's a tough pill to swallow after a national championship. But moving forward, based on what Ross said, and this includes, unfortunately, I think with Braylon Womack, I don't think we're going to see any pivot here. I don't think we are. Ryan Day talked at Big Ten Media Days about the CSC ruling, saying you can't guarantee things to somebody, and then unless you know for sure it's going to happen. That's a bad look for Ohio State. And of course, he's right. But at the time he made that statement, we weren't into this yet. We didn't have this ruling yet. But I wish I could be a fly on the wall and listen to that conversation as to the approach they're going to take next with this. Because, we talk about it a lot. I'm sure they're talking about it a ton. I still think that they're in kind of a, let's hold on as hard as we can this class. And next year, if we got to change something, we're going to change it. And that sucks because, you could lose Braylon Womack. Auburn is hot on his trail. They will spare no expense. That's the news coming out of there. But as frustrating as it is, when I look at this class of 2026 with guys like Kari Wilder and Sam Greer, Blaine Bradford, Sincere Johnson, Damari Simeon, Jordan Thomas, I really like a lot of players in this class on the top end, and I like a lot of players on the bottom end as well. I think we're steals and great evaluations. So certainly nothing to be salty about in that regard, but you did miss out on a lot of battles that you normally would not have missed out on. And that sucks. And I get it. I'm trying my best to be calm about it. I think I'm doing a good job. Anyway, tomorrow night, guys, we're going to be live, I think, over at JUCK on Bucks, roughly the same time. So either that or I will be doing a video probably in the afternoon, one or the other. But if you don't see a video come out tomorrow afternoon, then definitely we will be live in the evening. So check that out. My man, Don B, love this guy, man. This guy deserves a mod status. How do you do that over here? I don't know. Don B, like the video, everybody, please. That'd be great. Chris Lane, is Padilla playing center, guard, or both? I know the boy's cross-trained. As far as I know, Padilla strictly a center. I don't think he's got quite the height they want for guard. Now, Mark, I starred this before I brought that up, which is hilarious. I starred this comment before I was finished telling the story. He called that. Oh, Chris, I got something to show you. Chris, thank you so much. Chris said, I like the Scarlet helmets. They look mean. I've got another Scarlet helmet to show you guys. So, Austin Burgess emailed me last night. He's a Buckeye, and he said, I did a little something with the Louisville Chrome helmets. I asked you this a long time ago. How do you think Ohio State's helmet would look in that Louisville Candy Apple helmet? If you guys remember what that is. And he got ChatGPT to superimpose this. And this is the Ohio State helmet with that Louisville Chrome Candy Apple, what they call it, finish. I actually think this looks better than the matte. So here's the matte. Here's the Candy Apple. I love it. I think it's awesome. I would definitely feel good about that one. In some more recruiting news, not great news, I talked to you guys about a prospect that the Buckeyes were going to keep an eye on for his senior year, potentially go after now a top 100 player, Wydeek Collier, who is just let me get Chris's comment off here, an absolute specimen. Needs to put some muscle on it. 6'6", 215, but just long, rangy, and he's a Rutgers commit, up to the number 14 edge in the country. Well, he went ahead and reclassified and is now going right now with Rutgers. So he's off the board. So Deron Parks off the board. He's off the board. And, the pickings get slimmer and slimmer. Picture of Julian Sayin looking pretty beefy here, guys. Check that out. Look at the forearm. Look at that forearm. Our guy's getting bigger. I think by this time next year, going to be pretty sturdier. And right now, despite the size difference, like DJ Lagway's a tank. And Sayin is sturdier than DJ Lagway. He just is. Lagway's getting hurt, not even on the field. Yeah, Richie, hey, I hated his recruiting strategy. And Richie says, Justin Fry did his thing. Shout out Coach Fry. I hated his recruiting strategy. I hated and talked to several recruits who was like, yeah, I don't hear from the guy much, and that used to drive me nuts. And all in all, his classes weren't big enough, didn't spread a big enough net, didn't offer enough guys. But the dudes that he brought in seemed to, for the most part, have a pretty high success rate. And that's great. Now you've got a better recruiting crew in, and we get to see them on the field here shortly, which, man, I can't wait for. Skull Sessions, yes, Emily, Skull Sessions will be on this channel as well. Will Berm be on Skull Sessions, asks Wing Manted. Berm is not employed at Buckeye Huddle. Berm came to Buckeye Huddle. Buckeye Huddle brought on Berm, and he was at Buckeye Huddle for 5 weeks, then left to Letterman Row. So, no, definitely not on Skull Session. Minutia. Juck has a great vocabulary. Cookie Monster, what's up with you? Ricky says he's basking in the national championship. Listen, you guys got to get over this, man. Like, it's training camp now. The basking is over. There's no more basking. We're moving on now. It's time to go win another. Basking is for the complacent. Chris, this is why I like Juck. I don't understand this stuff. I hope I explain it good. Some people have said that they can't understand it, and they appreciate when I explain it because they can understand it when I break it down. I try to break it down in real world situations. Juck needs a brewski. Juck doesn't drink brewskis, brother. But I appreciate it. We got a Franklin fanatic. You guys want a piece of Penn State? Come get some, brother. I don't think you're in any position as a Penn State fan to talk yet. You got a chance this year. Definitely got a chance this year. Sharice does not think Penn State will ever beat Ohio State. I'll tell you, I'm concerned about that one right now. Very concerned. They got a squad, man. Could it be possible that everybody's looking at what Ohio State did, what Michigan did, and thinking, well, here we go. Now it's Penn State because they got the same kind of thing going. And maybe, no, they're just not as good as Ohio State and Michigan were, even though they got these guys coming back. Yeah, that could be possible for sure. Freak of nature. Juck, did you play for OSU? No, brother. No. I was nowhere near that good enough. I wish. I actually, the reason I don't drink brewskis, I got into, I was a young alcoholic, and after high school went through some really rough times. And life was going down a wrong path when I was 19, 20, 21, 22, bad years, bad memories. And then I met my soon to be wife, and hey man, life is great. Life is great. We got 3 grown boys, 25, 20, and 18. She's going to be mad at me that I struggled, that I had a pause there for that. But yeah, life is good and sober, and yeah, we're never going back there. So anyway, my friends, I appreciate the conversation with you this evening. As always, we will be here Monday and Wednesday here at Buckeye Huddle for Buckeye Huddle Prime Time, having a good time talking Buckeyes with you, and it'll just keep getting better and better as we get on to the season here. But for now, training camp starts tomorrow. Cannot wait. Going to be fantastic. And I will talk to you guys just as soon as possible. Tomorrow, you can join me probably at JUCK on Bucks. I think we're probably just go live here at 8 p.m. We'll just keep that going for another day in a row. We'll do it over at JUCK on Bucks tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. And I appreciate you so much for joining us here at Buckeye Huddle. Please do subscribe to Buckeye Huddle and let them know that they made the right choice, because man, I'm really nervous about this. He really put the pressure on me. All right. Thanks. Talk to you guys later. JUCK on Bucks out.